was relevant to the discussion of where discrimination against mutants, brackets, and real-life minority groups, close brackets, really comes from, whether it does really come from a place of fear or not. David Martin says that when we say direct violence is justified as a tactic of political resistance, and we might cite some specific examples of that, it's often because we know in hindsight that liberation worked. It's often because we can point to it and say, yeah, things worked out for the better there, and therefore the use of direct violence was justified. And if we're worrying about whether our own use or somebody else's use of direct violence as a tactic of political resistance now, in the present, is justified, that's not really a very useful rule of thumb, because we can't predict the future. That is a good point, and I think that's a very fair point to make. I don't think it completely shuts down the discussion, because if you were, I don't know, I hope you're not, but if you were planning on using direct violence as a tactic of political resistance, you might be able to say, okay, let's look at past uses of direct violence where it went wrong, see why they went wrong, what concrete steps can we take this time, not just have good intentions, but what actual steps can we take this time to prevent things going wrong again. So yeah, that's a very fair point. I don't think it completely shuts down the discussion there. D-Staff made the point that since the X-Men and mutants have so many varied powers, there are all kinds of other tactics of resistance they could use that aren't just direct violence. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we were just focusing on direct violence for the episode, but yeah, they could. They could obviously go on marches. They could, I guess, use Nightcrawler to teleport into places and stage sit-ins and protests and teach-ins and occupations and all that kind of thing. All of those kinds of tactics can disrupt the structures of oppression without necessarily using direct violence. And all those tactics do have their own pros and cons, as the UK was learning only this week at time of filming, actually, because we had some of our own protests that were going on and people disrupting various structures, and there are pros and cons to those kinds of tactics. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There are other forms of resistance, not just violence, of course. Yara El Ghazawi wondered whether only using direct violence or primarily using direct violence as your group's resistance tactic might end up making your group not very inclusive, because you might want to think about other forms of resistance tactics that could include more people. And yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is something I know that real life activist groups do take into account. I was down at a protest in London just the other day, actually, and I was chatting to some of the organisers and listening to what they were saying, and they were saying, yeah, absolutely, we want to make this a very, very inclusive movement. We want to include as many people as we can and make it really diverse and give people lots of different opportunities to organise and get involved according to their ability, primarily, and their inclination as well. So yeah, maybe Magneto could learn something from that, and making sure that your movement, whatever it is, whether you're a direct violence group, I guess, or whether you're more of just a protest group, making sure that it is inclusive is always something to bear in mind. Maybe the X-Men could learn something about that as well. Those are all the comments that we have time for this week. If you are at Summer in the City this weekend, then if you see me around, do feel free to say hello. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be on a panel, I think, at some stage. There's some kind of panel that I'm involved in, or if you see me just around the floor, absolutely feel free to come up and say hello. At patreon.com, you can help me give away free education on YouTube, as well as all of these names. Big thank you this month to my new patron, Sean Emanian, and all the other incredibly generous people who have been supporting the show. All your names are in the doobly-doo. It's been an amazing month for me on Patreon. I'm absolutely blown away. Thank you all so much.